Yeah. Hey, hey. Years in the game, still allergic to high. I have scaled ideas, buried a few, and which one survived. I built brands before algorithms, before funnels had names. Watch people confuse attention with equity, so lame. This is not opinion. Got results and recognition. You are here, you are not browsing. You are paying attention.
You are paying attention. Oh my goodness. So I didn't change glasses. So you get to see my at-home glasses. I don't know. I've reached a part of the program where the better glasses are harder for me to see up close. So guess what? You're going to get these, my little nerdy glasses. These are actually one of my favorite pair. But welcome, welcome, welcome. You are here. It is Teaching Tuesday, How to Tuesday, all of the Tuesdays, and I am teaching live. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie, award-winning marketer, TEDx speaker, fractional brand and marketing leader. And I am so excited about this topic today because I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I'm just going to be honest with you. And, you know, it's the new year, the new calendar year. And so for those of you who are tuning in, I just want to say, hey, and welcome to January. Welcome to 2026. And as I've said in my other videos, if it doesn't feel like it's really a new year, it's because it's not. The new year actually starts later on, but that's a whole different conversation. But, you know, I want to use this time to really dig into some things that are really happening in the world. And I call it breaking the brand, right? But I didn't want to create a whole new like series or whatever because I didn't think that was necessary, right? Part of the work that I do as a fractional and that we do as a team is that we um, ask you to stop creating and start converting. One of the things that I see a lot with founders, even if they're established, is that they continue to create without any knowledge or honor or reverence to what does what, right? And I myself, right, have been guilty of just creating because sometimes we just don't know what'll hit, right? And sometimes we don't know what will hit because we haven't focused long enough on anything to figure out what the outcomes are, or we get so disenfranchised with what has happened that we say, oh, this isn't working. Okay, well, you only started doing this like 3 hours ago. You only started doing this 3 weeks ago. You only started doing this 30 days ago. And so sometimes we don't give time, we don't give it the time that it needs to really see if it's working. And I will be the first one to tell you that I like my results to come in. I like them to come in fast. I like them to come in hard. I like them to come in without a doubt, indubitably, if you will. I love that. So if you're watching on Facebook, be sure to send stars to show your support. We're currently streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. And today we're going to talk about, of course, brand and marketing. But before I get into that, I really need to start making sure that you understand what a brand is, because people are using this terminology incorrectly. They say, oh, I'm building a brand, I'm building a brand. And only those of us who do this, you know, Jada West and Shauna Solomon, myself, Niche Rose, the Vivid Key, there's a few people that I know, Michelle Allen, who understand what it means to build a brand. But a lot of times people, mere mortals, are walking around saying, I'm building a brand, and it's making things that don't make you money make sense. Your follower count is large, but your bank account isn't. You went viral, but apparently not viral enough because nobody bought anything. And I do understand. Remember, I did a whole live on how to know if it's working. And yes, there's resonance and there's relevance and there's all kinds of spaces that you can be in that let you know it's working. But ultimately, we want to get to revenue. I don't know any of you who are doing this as a hobby, because even the people who are doing it as a hobby, they're monetizing what they're saying. They may look like they're just playing on social and saying all kinds of cute stuff and making all kinds of comments and all of this. No. They are in the background looking at their insights, getting payouts. That's what they're doing. That's why they're saying incendiary things. Some of the most incendiary things that I have said have taken my engagement higher. And I wasn't even trying to trigger. I wasn't trying to be polarizing, right? I wasn't trying to do that. I just said something and people were like, girl, what you talking about? And I'm like, fascinating. And so when I look at my insights, which I do often, because I want to make sure that my content is landing with non-followers, because with social media, and Natalie Nicole of Natalie Nicole Consulting says it's best. With social media being the top of the funnel, we want to make sure that we're getting out of the echo chamber, right? We want to make sure we're getting out of the echo chamber. And so today I'm gonna look at a brand that's probably near and dear to those of you who are tuned in. And if you're catching this live, please put live in the comments. If you catch it on the replay, please, absolutely say replay and share this out. But I want to talk about America the brand. America the brand. And I think, I was running over and over in my head, like, what's popular, what's being talked about, what's trending. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about Cardi B and that boy. I don't want to talk about Venus and Serena. I don't want to talk about any of those things, right? I don't want to talk about what occurred in that other country. But what I can talk about is America as a brand. Because in all things, America gives us the perfect textbook for understanding what brand really is. America is a brand. Why do I say that? Why do I know that? Because brand is about expectation. This is why when you say, oh, I'm building a brand, why I kind of look at you a little bit crazy unless you're actually a brand professional, because we're talking about expectation. We're not talking about likes. We're not talking about comments. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about expectations. And what's so funny, as we move in this world and as we move in this time in our history, some people are absolutely surprised at the brand that has been here all along. Some people are now bought into this brand. Now, am I about to bash our country? Well, no, I'm not about to bash our country, but I am about to point out some things. Because one of the things that I said in a video, I did a live stream some time ago about the MAGA campaign being a marketing masterclass, because it is. Regardless of how you feel of the messages that go out, MAGA, Make America Great Again, was absolutely a masterclass in marketing. And if you watch that video, which is over on my YouTube, you will see why I say that. Not in support of the movement, but in support of the methodologies that were used to make it a movement. There's something any founder, any leader of an organization can take from that video. Same thing with America. When we think about America, depending on who you are, your expectations are different. And ultimately, America has a variety of target audiences. It has a variety of demographics and psychographics that it impacts. And it has messages. It has messages that have been consistent. I think part of the reason why certain groups don't want certain things shared is because they're actually trying to rebrand America as something that it never was. One of the thought processes that I love to dismantle, y'all know Dane is floating around the room. So if you see me make crazy movements, it's not like I'm having a moment. I'm literally like, hey, stop doing that. One of the things one of the beliefs of the brand of America that I love to dismantle is the idea of America is a Christian country. You're alive from the pit of hell and there is no truth in you. But again, this is what you've been taught. And so if you actually understood the history of this country, you would understand that the founding fathers did not have belief in a triune God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. They were monotheists. They believed in one God, which inherently means they weren't Christian. Because isn't the basis of Christianity the triune God? But people want to base these beliefs on oh, this is a Christian country, and so everybody should be Christian, and so you don't leave room for other groups to come in and be successful, or you want to bash other groups, et cetera, based on this belief, based on the fact that these individuals are going against the brand of America. We're a Christian country. No, you are not. No, you are not. Part of the expectations of brand in America is that this is a free country. However, what we understand is that freedom is a fleeting as well as subjective construct. It depends on who you are and where you are and how you define freedom. There are a lot of people who are physically free, but fiscally bound, financially bound. They don't have the means to sustain themselves in the society that has been created. For the longest time in this country, America was seen as a beacon. It was a place where you come to achieve dreams and goals. It's a place where you come where opportunity abounds. Again, it's in the messaging. That chick that's over on that island, right outside of New York, that she's holding a torch and she's turned a little green. She says, "Bring me, you're hungry, you're tired, you're poor," or something like that. Right? The messaging beckons to those who at the time needed a safe house, needed a lighthouse, needed a place where they could come and there was opportunity. And so we still believe that, right? Land of the free, home of the brave. But what goes in to the brand of America? Well, first of all, it's a legacy brand, right? It's a legacy brand. 1766 to 2026. It's a legacy brand, right? But we're a young country, but still a legacy brand. And in that time, this is what I want to talk about. When you're a legacy brand, you will go through evolutions. You will absolutely evolve, and your meaning will change. Your value will change, you know? I've talked to people who've owned companies for years, 30, 40, 50 years, and at one time they were flourishing and now they aren't, and they can't figure out why. Well, because evolution is inevitable. Not only evolution of your business, but evolution of the people that you serve. One of the worst things that a business can do is fail to evolve. Your target audiences have gotten older. They may be doing other things. Maybe at one point in time, you catered to people who were single. Well, at some point, those people evolve and they may still be single, but their singleness takes on different dimensions. Companies must evolve. As I often say, it's evolve or unalive. Because we can't say the D word in social media. It's evolve or unalive. And that's what's happening with a lot of companies, a lot of organizations who are, as we call, legacy brands. They've been around forever. And maybe you say, well, I haven't been around forever. Yeah, but you've been around long enough that there should be an evolution. I don't want to say pivot because everybody says that. There's an evolution. The way you show up, what you say, what you offer, how you offer it. One of the things that I find truly challenging is companies that have not kept up with technological advances. Companies that I can't pay online. Like somebody needs to call me and get a credit card number, or they need to call me. Or I'm like, if I want to talk to people, I don't ever want to talk to people. But we live in a world where technology has become the norm. It's no longer a thing where only a privileged few have it. And so again, when we're looking at a legacy brand like America, when we're looking at a legacy brand, we have to look at how the legacy has evolved. One of the interesting things about advertising is that when advertising first started as an industry, there was no consideration for people of color. It was a bunch of hypomelanated men sitting around a room creating things. More than likely, it was a bunch of women and men just took the credit, but I digress. But that being said, have you ever seen Mad Men? Just saying. So that being said, when advertising first started, it wasn't about people of color. It didn't evolve into those divides until later on, probably in the 20th century. Later in the 20th century. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. So I think ultimately we have to think about whether your brand and your business or whether the brand attached to your business is 10 days old or 10 years old. Understanding the evolution of what it says, what it does, and how it does it is super duper key to your next steps, to how you evolve. Remember, the consumers are used to certain things. One thing that has always challenged me as we talk about legacy brands that have failed to evolve is the church. The church fails to evolve all the time. They've gotten bigger, but not better. Bigger, but not more efficient. Bigger, but not more effective. My pastor used to drive a Porsche. Most of his flock was broke. Do I like broke pastors? Nope. Think that's antithetical. How are you the man next to the man or the woman and you poor? But I do think there's a level of mindfulness. I do believe that a rising tide raises all boats. And so again, it becomes so important that the evolution happens. I still wonder why people don't have church, like Sunday service on Monday evening. And they said, no, because people no longer work 5 days a week. There are people that work a variety of days a week. Why is there no evolution? And now the conversation is why people are leaving the church. Well, because you didn't evolve. Because you let ministers become pastors. And those are two different anointings. And again, same thing with America. The Americans have evolved. The rights of Americans have evolved. And so the question becomes, as a legacy brand, is America evolving? Is its messaging evolving or its methodologies evolving to make room for that? Because that's what's necessary. That's what keeps you alive. That's what keeps you afloat. That's what keeps cohesion happening when those changes are being made, rather. And some of you will say, well, dang, Stephanie, that's a lot. I know. It's a lot for a Tuesday afternoon. But it's about the evolution. It's about the growth, the augmentation, the strategy. Remember, there's such thing as a business life cycle. And at every point in the life cycle, from launch to decline, you are responsible for communicating your messaging. Your brand strategy must change and evolve. You cannot say the same things at launch as you say in maturity. Yes, they may be connected, but they're more than likely not the same. Because at the end of the day, you're trying your best to stay relevant to those that are within your ecosystem. So that means being mindful of those you are serving and seeking to serve. That means being resourceful and researching who's doing what to whom. You see your sales dip, don't run into Canva, right? Maybe run into Chat GPT or run into a library and look at the shifts in your psychographics and demographics that you were serving over the last few years. Even companies that started during the pandemic, there's a lot of companies that started during the pandemic and they were wildly successful. Now we're 6 years later and they're not as successful. Does that mean that what you did was wrong? No, it just means that the needs shifted. Go figure that out. Go figure that out and then figure out how to meet that need. Evolve. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's evolve or unalive. So I'll leave you with a question. Do you feel that America as a brand has evolved? Do you feel that it's serving those that it is seeking to serve? Do you feel that its messaging aligns with where it is now? Do you feel like the brand is fragmented? Does it need an audit? What are your thoughts? Anyway, my name is Stephanie D. McKenzie, and listen, I am super excited to continue in this. If you have a question or comment, drop it over into the questions or the comments. If we can serve and support you in any way, I'm happy to do so. But otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Have you been on a weight loss journey and the scale just isn't giving you the results you hoped for? Well, meet Thinner, an FDA-registered, all-natural homeopathic approach that addresses the root causes of how to lose weight and keep it off, especially if hormones are an issue. If you're tired of all of the guesswork and doing it alone, scan the QR code for more info, and let's get you started today.